Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are going to meet the city attorney. Her name is Cheran Ivery. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
People see you on the dais during city council meetings as, one of the people up there. You don't talk a lot. They probably don't know exactly what you do. Can you tell me what the city attorney does?
Sure. The city attorney is the primary legal counsel to the city. And basically, what I do specifically in my role is advising city council on a daily basis with regard to any legal issues that come up. And I have a staff of attorneys, paralegals, and administrative assistants that work and provide legal counsel to all of the city departments, boards, commissions. And that's, as you can imagine, that's quite a lot.
I didn't realize that until I got to the city. I thought there was a city attorney and just that one person. Because the advising city council might be the part that people see the most. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff too. I mean, you don't act as an attorney for the city residents, nothing, but you are acting in their best interest as taxpayers.
Correct. No, we don't advise private citizens. Our legal counsel is strictly related to city departments, boards, commissions, and the city council.
So on city council, you make sure that they are following the law in terms of, closed sessions, that they're talking about what they're supposed to be talking about, that they're not doing things in a way that's not transparent unless it's for a very solid reason. That's important to taxpayers,
Absolutely. Transparency in government is extremely important. And to that end, the Freedom of Information Act governs closed meetings and how and why you can have a closed meeting. And so before we ever do that, we have to, and you'll hear the city clerk read the closed meeting exemptions and the reasons why under the law that the city council is going into closed session. So I'm responsible for providing that language, vetting the items that are coming before council and determining whether or not those exemptions apply. So that's kind of my role. So when the city clerk's reading that, that's something that the city attorney's office has prepared and approved.
And I think that's important. People think that they meet in closed session all the time. They really don't. It's that period after the afternoon session. It's specifically they talk about what they say they're going to talk about. And you hold them to that if for some reason they were to stray.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the other thing you do for the taxpayers, which isn't directly, is you make sure that our city codes are in line with state and national guidelines, and if those change or if a court decision changes, you and your staff rework the laws, for example.
Correct. So Virginia is a Dillon rule state, and what that means is what local governments can do is limited by the authorities given to them by the state or the General Assembly. So that's why what happens in Richmond and what's going on in Richmond right now is so important, because whatever new laws come into effect, we are going to take and vet here in Hampton and determine how we need to fit those changes into our local city code.
So, and the other thing is you watch court decisions. So you might think you're in line with the law, but the court might say, no, you can't limit people's free speech in that way. Or I know there were some rules about panhandlers and what you can and can't do. And so you make sure that the city doesn't get sued, which would cost the taxpayers a lot of money.
Yes, the end goal is to make sure that, of course, that we are in alliance with all federal laws, state laws, and that we're following them. And to that end, that's what my attorneys in my office do, is ensure that we're able to educate all the departments, city council, city manager, about how the law is changing and evolving and what we need to do to, stay on the right track.
And if I should end up in court, you or one of your staff would help me through that process.
Yes.
You would defend me.
We would be defending the city.
So that's, a really important function. And you mentioned the Freedom of Information Act. You should probably add that your staff is the one who fulfills those requests. And we get a lot. I had no idea how many we get.
Yes, we get a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests, so much so that I actually have a paralegal position dedicated to kind of funneling those requests to the different departments in the city to collect documents where we need to appropriately respond to those requests. So that's an actual job function of an individual. I think we were in excess of 2,000 requests last year, and that kind of 2,000, 2,200 number has kind of held steady for a couple of years.
I don't think people realize that. You know, the media promotes it when they get something, when they obtain documents under that act, but they don't realize that it comes from a lot of different sources and all the different things that you have to do.
Absolutely. They come, a lot come from citizens requesting information related to, permits, copies of permits, trying to think of what else. City council actions, maybe,
Police records.
And even if you can get them on the website, if people make the request, we will respond. So, that's kind of how that works. A lot of the things are already available on the city's website.
We have tried hard to do that. Like if we hear that there's a request for something, we'll move it onto the website so people can find it.
But even if we still get that request, we're not going to direct you to the website. We're going to give you the document if it is not exempt from disclosure.
Right. But we work closely together to try to get that information out to folks so they don't have to go through the paperwork, because it takes a little time to get the answer that way. You also, and people may not know this because they're not all on TV, advise a number of the boards and commissions, and those are largely our citizen volunteers who are put in that semi-public role.
Yes. I don't know if, I believe Planning Commission is televised, but you will see I have an attorney up there, Deputy City Attorney Bonnie Brown is legal counsel to the Planning Commission. She's also legal counsel to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Senior Deputy Patricia Melichek is the legal counsel to our Economic Development Authority. So every board and commission in the city has one of my staff that's either at those meetings every time they come up and or available to be there if they need, those boards feel like they need legal counsel at a meeting.
And I think that's really important because citizens willingly give their time and want to help, but this gives them sort of the comfort level that they need to know they're doing the right thing when they're on a public board or commission.
Absolutely.
So how did you end up in this job? How did you get to the legal career, but then also, leave sort of the big money of private practice for supporting governments?
Well, I've actually basically been in local government my entire legal career, but I got into the law. I basically was kind of born into it. I'm originally from Northern California. My mom became a judge when she was only 31. She was the first Black female judge in Northern California.
Wow.
So I believe I was about 5 or 6.
Those are big shoes to follow.
Oh, yeah. It's about 5 or 6 when she went on the bench, so that's all I remember.
Yeah.
So I basically grew up, if I was homesick from school, she was still going to work. So I grew up sitting in a jury box and kind of watching things happen. And to hear me tell it when I was a teenager, I would never want to be a lawyer or a judge, But it was something that eventually, when it came time for me to decide what I wanted to do after college, I went ahead and took the LSAT and went to law school.
That's interesting that you grew up in it, but then, was it the teenage rebellion? Like, I'm not going to go to the college my mom went to. I'm not going to do what my mom did. And then it just felt right?
It was probably more, I remember specifically thinking when they do the all rise and the you have to stand up for the judge, and I would just roll my eyes like, I cannot believe I have to do this for her. But, now having been to law school and really, understanding more about the law and respecting it so much and it being my passion, of course, I think that's so very important. But I remember that kind of angsty teenager attitude, and it's kind of funny that I ended up being a lawyer.
Yeah, that's great. So why public service? Is that the same thing as, kind of following in your mom's footsteps? Because there's lots of ways you could make more money as a lawyer.
Well, yeah, that is true. Well, when I went to law school, I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. So I had a child with me in law school, and I did my all of my summer internships with large private practice firms here in Virginia, and I thought that would be the route I was going to take. But my 3rd year, I ended up getting pregnant with my son, who's now 16. And so I actually took the bar. I was 9 months pregnant with him, and I passed. And I wasn't going to be able to go into the workforce right away. I realized that. And so I didn't go with a big firm. I stayed home with my son for about 6 or 7 months. And then an opportunity came up in a city attorney's office on the South Side. and it was actually as a paralegal. And
Oh, wow.
so
Way overqualified.
they took me on. I was doing the paralegal work, and one of the lawyers in the office said, you should go to law school. And I said, oh, okay, well, I did. And he said, well, so are you on break, or are you studying for the bar? And I said, no, I already took the bar. And he said, oh, so you're studying for it again? And I said, no, I passed. And he said, stop. He said, Cheran, are you a lawyer? And I said, yes. I just passed in October, actually, so this is kind of my first thing. And I had been hired by another paralegal, so she hadn't really shared my resume with anyone. So he got my resume and looked at it and was like, I'll be right back. And he went to the city attorney's office and kind of shared, like, this woman that's been this temp paralegal in our office and has been helping me, she's a lawyer. And he came out and he said, would you like to work here? Would you like to be an assistant city attorney 1? We'd really love to have you. And there's this empty office here. And I was just, of course, I'd already liked all the people in the office. And so I started off as an assistant city attorney 1 in a locality on the south side, and was just so blessed to have mentors that wanted to see me grow. And I've been worked my way up. And so it was really exciting for me to interview and get this position as the city attorney in Hampton. It's really special.
That's a great story. I didn't even know all of that. That's wonderful. So are your kids going to follow in your footsteps as a lawyer?
Probably not. The eldest, my older daughter, Kayla, is 22. She just graduated from UVA with a degree in speech pathology. Ooh. And she is in Europe taking a gap year, and she's applying to grad schools to get her master's in speech pathology when she gets back later this year. Ah. And then my son, the one I was pregnant with at the bar, which thankfully he stayed in place. He was born about 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after the test.
Oh my gosh.
But he's 16. He's a junior in high school, basketball player. He's doing great. And then
so he is following in your footsteps.
On the basketball side.
I'm going to get you to confess that you have had a basketball high school and college career that was pretty illustrious.
I definitely enjoyed basketball. And so, yes, he's playing. And then I have a 3-year-old that's, I call her Little Miss Hampton. She's loved living here, and she loves the neighborhood and Holidays Parade.
And she was in the State of the City video.
She had a cameo in the State of the City. Yeah. Video.
Yeah, she's going to be some sort of a star. I don't know what it is, but people will all rise when she walks into the room, whether it's a courtroom or something else, I think. So, how do you like Hampton? I mean, it's different than the South Side localities in a lot of ways.
It's definitely different, and I love it. I can tell you, I love my home. Part of what is required of me under the city code is that as a city attorney, I move here and that I live within the city of Hampton, which was something that I was excited to do. And I was able to get that done and find a place where, I can be comfortable and live with my family within about 6 to 8 months of coming onto the job.
That's great.
So I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. Hampton has so many activities, so many things to do. And really the division of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, it really does make it so you don't really go to the other side. So I hadn't really spent much time in Hampton other than to come to the Coliseum for a few shows. Mm-hmm. So I've really learned a lot in the past year and a half about Hampton and the peninsula, and I absolutely love it.
We're so glad to have you. It's been absolutely wonderful. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
Let's see. Well, one of the things I've really loved about Hampton in particular is all the basketball tournaments at the Boo Williams Sportsplex. I'm a huge basketball fan. My son plays in high school, and so I've had the opportunity to see him play at that wonderful facility before when I was living on the south side, but even more now that I'm over here. So just Hampton is just a wonderful place. There's so many things to see, so many things to do. I'm excited to be a part of the community.
That's great. We are excited to have you. It's absolutely been a joy. You are good, and you're a good manager of your staff. I mean, there's a lot of times when I call you, but a lot more times when I'll pick up the phone and I know which attorney does which sort of thing, and I can get an answer so quickly. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you. We have great folks. It's a pleasure to work with them, and I'm so proud to have all of them on my staff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming by and sharing this information with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. A lot of people have a misconception about what a city attorney does, and I hope you've learned that and are also welcoming Cheran to the community.